Whew, am I in focus? Zoom in, zoom out. Yep, guess that's it. Oh, okay, welcome back. This is be part 3 of Zhang flips PCs. And if you haven't noticed, I am wearing a mic. You can't see it, but I hopefully the audio quality is a little bit better compared to the other videos where I just use the mic on camera. Part 1 and part 2 was pretty well received. Well, just being honest, part 2 was definitely way better than part 1, had more of the action, the montages and things. And as I said in part 2, that will be in part 2 about kind of how to deal with scammers. I'm talking about the templates that I use myself, that I believe is successful in the New Zealand market. That we'll be talking about scammers today, and we'll be talking about the templates and the budgeting that I use to ensure that I make a profit. Because if you don't make a profit, there's no point of doing PC flipping, unless you enjoy building computers like me. Or do I? That's a question I'll answer in another video. But okay, how do you budget for a computer? You really have to do some market research, because all successful products use market research. Just like you need to research what car to buy, what's the best value, you also have to do that with computers. You got to find the best value in a part compared to looks, and you got to balance between the performance of a computer and the looks of the computer, because looks in the end for a computer, RGB and the cool lights and the cool tempered glass case, it all adds up. And for some people, you gotta really have to find your niche. You gotta find out what the market wants, because not everyone wants RGB, not everyone wants that fancy tempered glass case. So that's also something you need to really factor in to your budgeting. Personally, I try keeping the budget for cases around about $100. I try to keep it the $50 for a case, and for the RGB, maybe another $50. I found that that's the sweet spot to get a good RGB and a good case. But in the next season where I'll show everything that I do, I'll be touching on more of how you can make that balance and how you can find the best aesthetics compared to having the best value. But anyways, let's go to my computer and I'll show you how I use my templates. Okay, there, synced up. So, the thing is that this graph, well, this spreadsheet is actually very easy to understand. It's not that hard. I wouldn't really put something that's that I can't really understand. So if you see up here, you need, like, I usually buy motherboard CPU combos. So this is around 120. To be honest, I'm pushing this to like 200 now. So it's kind of bad. I would say you can't really get good deals anymore. If I build these computers at this cost, it will cost me around about $900 to sell it as for a profit. So that's the issue I'm facing right now. I can't find good value parts, and I guess that's the issue I will face. Usually this market is around maybe about $200, and this is the document you guys have, but I have my own personal one, which have all the spreadsheets for every computer I've sold in the past. I can't really show you that because it's got personal customer data on it. Usually the storage, yep, is $70. The SSD is around about $40, and the hard drive is around also about $40. Power supplies, I've been lucky to find them around for about $50. $40 is pushing it. Cases, like, this number is getting inflated. I'm saying there's like 65 now. Accessories are also around 65. A GPU, yeah, in this market, no. GPU, you see, this is slowly adding up, and let me see if I can pull something up without really revealing much. Okay, so this is my personal document here. So basically the same thing. This is a template I have. I've been generous, 150. I can't find GPUs for $150 anymore, unless it's hard to push it. But yeah, it's really hard to find good value now. So these values are pretty arbitrary. So this is a great, if you make a copy of this document on Google, it's a great reference. It has my profit thing built in. So if I typed it in, it got a formula set up and what like I should look out for. And this is about it. i5 from 4th gen, i7 from 3rd gen. To be honest, you could break this. You can probably put i7s from 2nd gens, i5 from 2nd gens. I wouldn't go 1st gen i7s or 1st gen i5s anymore. They're a bit old. Maybe a couple years ago it was going to be fine, but right now not anymore. I always have a minimum of 16 gigabytes of RAM. It's a standard for me because 8 gigabytes of RAM performs terribly, as I've tried that on my own computer and on the computers I sell, and 8 gigabytes really doesn't cut it these days. Storage is always going to be a 1TB HDD, 128 gigabyte SSD, because most people who buy these gaming computers, or these computers, are gamers, so they don't really need much SSD capacity. They want to store a bunch of games onto their 1TB, and the power supply, as I usually try to get something 500 watt, at least 80 plus bronze. Although it's pushing it, I pushed an 80 plus gold for $40. It was a pretty good deal. That was in the first video. A little bit out of date. It says find a case of RGB with 2 intake and 2 exhaust fans. You can't really find RGB cases or cases that have RGB, so I generally now buy it separately. GPUs, GTX 950, or the bottom of the barrel, not really beginner budget GPUs. And the funny thing is that I only have a 1050 Ti myself, so personally, I'm not really that much of a gamer, so I don't really need that much. I've sold 1060 computers, so computers that actually have better specs than my own, which is the funny part. So this is the template I would use for about mid-range computers for like selling and flipping. And then this is the cheap template. I haven't actually ever used the cheap template before. I did draft it up. As you see, it's 8 gigabytes of RAM. You're pushing it. You can do it. It's doable. But for more demanding games like Just Cause 4, you're pushing it. GTA 5 is fine. Fortnite is fine. CPU, anything before 4th gen. i3 4th gen, i5 3rd gen, maybe an i5 2nd gen, all that. GPUs are GTX 950. They're about the more low end of GPUs. So around about GTX 660, yeah, the low end. Cheap RGB, like there's like static ones you can't really change with a remote. And 500 watt lower PSU. I don't even care about the A plus rating. If it's a reputable brand. The storage is going to be a 500 gigabyte hard drive, 128 gigabyte SSD. 128 gigabytes is the smallest capacity. Can't really do that much. And the profit compared to those two are around about the same. The thing is that although you try make your profit proportional, and you try and make it so it gets larger the more money you cost, or the more money you sell a computer for, it doesn't really matter because number one, if your computer, for me, it's always going to be around $300. It's not going to move. So if I build a computer for $1,000, which one would I build? A $500 computer cost me $500 to build, or a computer cost me $1,000 to build? It's more worth it for me to build a cheaper computer. But you don't want to go too cheap because then the parts can't play the games. So that's why I'm sticking with the mid-range plan. But hopefully, if you guys want to see the cheap plan in use, you can put a comment down below so you can remind me at least. And also you can bug me on Instagram if you want. Follow me. It's Joezang07 for my personal account, and the Joseph Does It thing, which is also on the channel page, so you can go check that out. Probably in the link in the description on the other videos. Haven't really checked those, but back to this. And so we can look at the computers. This is the i5 4690 computer, or we can look through this list briefly. So I'll put a picture of this right now on screen. This computer had its by memory. It has an NZXT H440 case. It has an H440 case. This was like this time while building it was this season. It was the first time I built into an NZXT case, and I appreciate the quality and the time and the materials put into these cases. NZXT has done a really good job on their cases. which I'm really happy about. And personally, I would buy NZXT cases. They're built like tanks. You could probably punch one and it probably wouldn't bend like an Aerocool or a Cooler Master. And I paid really cheap. I paid 50 bucks, just a normal standard bottom of the barrel case. 50 bucks, NZXT H440. And this case is very common. There's a cult following behind this case, and that case was very good. But it had kind of terrible cooling with its hard front panel, which you can see in the photo. This computer has 16 gigabytes DDR3. I bought this as a combo. I think I might have some video of that, so I'll put that up right now of this computer in its combo and motherboard parts form. And to be honest, all the computers I've sold upwards to now are GTX 960s, because the person I buy GPUs from only has GTX 960s. And the prices, as I said in the first video, $150 per card. It's okay, but I wouldn't really buy a GTX 960 for $150. It performs really closely to a 1050 Ti, so I'm pretty happy about that. The 500 watt 80 plus gold. Yeah, this one is the deal I also talked about in the first video. It cost me $40 for two. I'm very happy about that. The storage is also the 1 TB hard drive from PTL Computers in North Shore. If they're still selling some, I'll put those in the description. And the SSD, I usually just buy them new, $35. It's a pretty bad value. Not many people sell used storage in New Zealand, or it's really expensive. Unless you buy really high amounts, like 20 terabytes, like that. So this computer is the main board cost me $170, the storage cost me $80. I think I sold this computer for $800. It was definitely for $800. And the profit is a 235. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I regret this computer, because if I look at the other computer, this one made more. It costed me less, so I sold it for $700. It cost me more. This is the high-end computer I was talking about with the GTX 1060. This computer 925. This computer's real profit is probably around here, 251. So yeah, my profit, more or less, plus and minus $20 of around about $250. That's the inequality right there. And then this is the computer I sold before. These computers generally have i5 4590. They're mainly i5s. I haven't sold anything that didn't have an i5. The work computer I sold had an i5 3rd gen in it, which was actually my personal 3rd gen I used a couple years ago. It was my personal gaming setup. So this profit I sold for $750, and cost me. This one was probably the most luckiest computer. The main board I bought in from an office, which was basically selling it in bulk, so I got a pretty good deal on that. And the GPU was also cheap back then. I paid $120 for a GTX 960. This is before I thought the GPU price will crash, but this was like, I think this was around April. This was around about April holidays in Turn 1. And guess what? The GPU prices didn't crash, and the prices went up around about 30%. 30%. And the thing is that while the prices on my computers have gone up, it hasn't gone up to really compensate the GPU price. And right now, I'm literally worried that the GPU price can crash at any time. I'm like, I thought it would crash like months ago. Hasn't crashed? I don't know what to do. If it doesn't crash, it might not crash until next year. I don't know. That's the funny part. Oh, this is the worst computer. This computer had a bunch of cooling issues. Ugh. I just got rid of it. GTX 950 I paid $100 for. It was not a good deal. I could have saved probably. I could have put a GTX 960 in it, and it'll still probably sell for maybe $100 more. So, don't buy a GTX 950 for $100. If it's around about 75, it's very worth it. This price is not so much. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So I'll put a link to this template down below in this video, and if there's any questions on this template, you can, as I said, you can put comments in the description below. Case negotiation, that's for another day. You can contact me on Instagram. You can contact me through the comment section. You can write an email. I'll put an email link if I have time, if I have an email set up for this account, down below too. Also, I forgot to say, I'll also be having deal live streams. and hopefully we might have some special guests who know nothing about computers as they want to make a cameo in my video for some reason. But also another thing before we go to the next topic of today, I hope you guys checked out the trailer of this video. Oh, not this video. This channel. I updated it compared to the old trailer from about a year or two ago. It's definitely more upbeat. It's got better editing. I'm not using Microsoft Photos as my editor anymore. I'm using Premiere Pro. So please check that out. Please follow me on the Instagram page. What else? Well, basically I'm just rambling now. Okay, let's talk about scammers. You'll always encounter scammers on Facebook, and the easy way to detect scammers is the really good prices, or there's also the scammers who sell you broken stuff. In my case, personally, I've been kind of scammed, or hosed, as I said in the first video. So I was on Facebook looking for a power supply for my i5 590 computer. I'll put it as I had the Aircool case. I'll put it on screen right now. So I was looking for a power supply, 500 watt at least, to support a GTX 960. So what I did was I hopped onto Facebook as always, and I searched up 500 watt power supply. It's normal. And so I found this guy. His name is, let's just say his name is John. And I asked him, is this available? As always. And he said yes. And I was like, how much? I'll ask him how much for one. He was like, 55. And this wasn't even a good power supply. This was not even 80 plus bronze. This wasn't even 80 plus white. This was not even 80 plus. So I'm like, yeah, 50 bucks, I'll take it. I was pretty like stupid back then, about a couple months ago. So I didn't really know much about computers. Well, I did know much about computers. I just didn't know much about, I don't know, I guess there wasn't really much power supplies back then, but I should have paid $50 for that shit. Anyways, so I'm like, I said I'll give him 50 bucks. I don't have $5 change, right? So I went to his house. Everything was fine. The guy was Chinese. Great conversation. We took the power supply, and then I came home. And the thing was, I turned it on. I plugged in the computer. The computer turns on, and about like 2 seconds later, it just shuts off. I'm like, huh? I'm like, oh my god, is my motherboard broken? Because I've seen this issue before, and it was a motherboard issue with the i5 3470 computer I sold previously. That had some BIOS issues I had to fix. And I tested it. I tested it on. I'm like, doesn't work on this computer. Will it work on the other computer? And so then I went to another computer. I went to the i5 3470 computer. I'm like, I plug that in. I'm like, does it work now? No. I get the original power supply, the original 300 watt power supply for small form factor, and I plug that in. It works perfectly fine. And I was like, oh crap. So I spent maybe about 4 hours like going around in circles trying to test this power supply, because thinking it was correct and thinking that I broke my part. At one point, I was literally thinking that I might have broken the parts with this faulty power supply. So like it was like the next day, and then I'm like, I was pissed. My mum went complete apeshit on me. So, that's the story. How do you deal with scammers? Number one, I went back to Facebook. I calmly said, hey bro, tested the power supply. It is faulty. I did it on multiple computers. I want my money back. I can return it to you tonight. Gladly, my dad had the time to return with me to go back to Ellerslie, which is a tiny bit far away, and he asked me this question: when you say faulty, does it power up at all? Yes, the seller will have questions if you say his product is faulty, and most people who sell on Facebook are not scammers. They're general people, ordinary citizens who are law-abiding citizens who are doing the best they can, and I doubt they want to purposely scam you. But there are people who generally make accounts that are set up to scam you. Okay, so he was like, "Cool, let's give the money back, drop it off outside the bench," and I was like, my mum was like going apeshit at me. My dad was like, "Can you at least test it in front of us so we know that he's gonna give us the money back if the thing is broken?" He was like, and I was like, sure, you can test it yourself. The thing is dead. And I was like, I didn't really trust people on Facebook still. So I was like, I'll bring my own computer, I'll test it in front of you, I'll show you. But then he was like, oh yeah, I don't know if your parts are broken. I'm like, yeah, well, sure, whatever. It's a fair point. So luckily, this guy, I gave it back to him, and literally 20 minutes later, he deposited the money back in my account. Because yes, the power supply was broken. And then I was thinking about it. This is the first point. Scammers don't give you their address. He gave me his address. So I can technically just go to cops. I can go to the small claims court. I can do whatever. I can do something like that, and I can get my money back through in those means. Yes, I would. I personally don't like scams. It's really inconvenient to get hosed or get a broken part. Looking at his Trade Me account, looking at his Facebook account, he had pretty good rating, so I let this one slide. It was, and that's the second point is test your parts. Test them before you buy them, or even ask, because most sellers won't allow you to test them, and especially for graphics cards, I would definitely test them, and also with RAM. But I've really never tested RAM before. And it's really inconvenient to test parts, especially when it's on Facebook, where it's just snap. You message him and then you sell it. So it's in a fast-paced world of Facebook, it definitely is hard to test parts compared to Trade Me, where they're more civilized. Okay, so how do you watch out for scammers? Like, what kind of accounts do they set up? Okay, number one, check out their profile. How many friends do they have? And what year was the account created? If the account was created this year or December last year, it's a scam, full-out scam. The only reason why the account is so new is because it's a scammer. They just make an account, and after they scam some kids, they delete the account, and boom, nothing on their hands. They're gone. Another is the good value of a graphics card. And I always, when you try buy a part, and especially in lockdown, and you need to post the part, you always want to have them send you a picture of their ID next to the part to prove that you have the part. Only dumb scammers will send you their real information and scam you. Because number one, if they put their real ID, their real power bill, yeah, we can go to the cops, you can be arrested for that. And I don't know the exact regulation on theft in New Zealand, but yes, you can get into some trouble if you scam people on Facebook. It's illegal. Don't do it. And that's number one. Number two, they always, let's just say, they charge pretty good competitive pricing compared to everyone else. Like GTX 1050 Ti, $175. That literally lowballs every other card on Facebook for a GTX 1050 Ti. Or a GTX 1070 for $350, which is around about $100 under market value. So these graphics cards seem very compelling for anyone browsing on Facebook, but yes, they are scammers. I wouldn't say scamming is a big issue in New Zealand, but it does and it will differ, depends on where you're from. So my advice is be very wary of everything you see, and also oh, I forgot. Another tip is if the photo is kind of pixelated, we know it's a re-upload, or you can reverse Google search the photos in their listing to see if they've been taken from someone else. Because if the photos they have on their listing is from them, there's not going to be another copy of this photo unless it shows up as a copy on Facebook. Well, anyways, I hope that was some practical advice on how to deal with scammers. And let me check my notes. What do I have? So this is part 3. I actually will be a part 4 in this season. Surprisingly, part 4. And this one's not really about computer flipping anymore. It's really about computers in general. I'll be talking about my origin story. Way before I started making money, well, way before I started making money off building computers. I used to be a parts dealer for computers, basically. And I'll also be talking about the dumpster dives and the e-waste, which also goes a part of that. I'll be talking about the stuff I've gone through dumpster diving, which spoil it right now, an RTX 3070. I'll talk more about that the next video.